Hi guys, in this video, I'm gonna talk about tenant proofing your rental or Airbnb property. Now, what is tenant proofing? The best analogy that I can give is if you live in a house with a toddler and you also have a coffee table in the family room with really sharp edges, eventually that toddler's forehead is gonna make contact with that coffee table and you're gonna wish that you got rid of that thing a long time ago so you don't have to deal with the messiness that just took place. So in this video, we're gonna focus on some key areas that an owner should prepare for upon a tenant moving in. So why is it so important to tenant proof your rental property? If you're thinking about renting out your house someday, or you wanna jump on Airbnb and get your house listed to pick up some extra money, there are some things that you need to do to ensure that you can sleep at night knowing that a tenant or a Airbnb renter is not destroying your property. So pay attention in this video and we'll go through some areas that an owner can take care of so that they are not shelling out a ton of money and they also have a peace of mind related to their rental experience. The bottom line is that tenants do not care about your property, and the additional age that is put on the home or the appliances or basically anything related to the property is akin to a presidential candidate winning the presidency and then 4 years later, 8 years later, you see those pictures of how aged their face has become because they have to work in overdrive essentially. That's a good analogy for what a tenant does to your rental property. There's just so much additional wear and tear. So let's start to go through this list one by one and we'll call out exactly what an owner needs to do to make sure that their property is tenant proof. First up, let's talk about landscaping. Now, a lot of owners put in leases items related to weeding or watering. And you can put whatever you want in a lease. That does not mean that a tenant is gonna do anything. So, and I've learned that firsthand myself. So if you've got a lawn out front or you just planted 50 trees in the backyard and they need a ton of water, I would consider them dead because the tenant is not gonna take care of it and they never have that same level of ownership like the true owner. So yes, they wanna live in a nice place, but they're not gonna care for the exterior. So my properties, for example, I have everything on irrigation. And I also have a landscaper that I can call as well in case trees need to be trimmed or things like that. But you want to make sure that the exterior is set up for success and your plants aren't going to die. And whatever you need to do to put in regular service, or you take care of it yourself as the owner, because most likely the tenant is really not going to be caring that much about the exterior of the home and do these manual labor items for you. Items like kitchen appliances, garage doors, the HVAC system, these are all major appliances, major systems that can cost anywhere from $250 for a microwave to $10,000 for a brand new HVAC unit outside. So these items you really want to have in good condition, good working condition. Yes, appliances in the kitchen are easier to replace, but think about things like the garage door. When was the last time that the garage door was serviced? Has it been oiled up? Is it going up and down smoothly? Because those are big ticket items potentially that a tenant doesn't care if they put the garage door up and down 50 times a day, and that's a lot of extra wear and tear on the motor, on the ball bearings, things like that. They don't think about that stuff because they're just living it and they're renting. So items like the HVAC system, when was the last time that was serviced? Is there full Freon in the system? One of the items that I'm personally dealing with right now, it's 115 degrees out here in the middle of July in Arizona, and one of my units has an HVAC issue and it's causing me a lot of anxiety because it's just a pain in the butt, and it's often multi-$1,000 repairs potentially, or if you have to replace that whole system because the tenant was extra hard on it, flipping hot to cold and up and down with the temperature. These are items that you really want to make sure are foolproof and they're up to date with their service records. Think about all the faucets around your house. It sounds kind of weird, but if any of them are leaking, the thing is, when a tenant moves in, they're not going to magically get better. They're only going to get worse. So the wear and tear is going to continue. That leak is going to get worse. And I've seen it in my own properties where you show up after a tenant has vacated and the entire bottom part of the vanity is filled with water and it's ruined and you have to sand it down and fix it. So these things, water damage is terrible. So anything related to water in general, the water heater outside, how your showers work, any potential leaky faucets in the kitchen or the bathrooms. Those are things that you absolutely want to fix right away. If there's corrosion on a faucet and it's going to lead to a leak, just err on the side of caution. Go to Home Depot or Lowe's, get a replacement part for 20 bucks and just fix it, because it's not something that a tenant is often going to report. They're not looking under the vanity at leaks and things like that. So you have to do a full inspection of your house and make sure that these little items are buttoned up. Now, this is a really interesting one. The paint that you use on the walls. I personally like to use a matte paint. However, that doesn't clean very well, and I use it because it gives it a nice modern look. However, the semi-gloss and glossy paints actually clean a lot better, and you can put water on them and clean off scuff marks and dings and things like that. So it's something to think about as you're painting your rental property, getting it ready and prepping it for a tenant. What materials are you using that are gonna be durable? And when you're flipping, especially like an Airbnb where you're maybe flipping it every night or every other day or couple of days, you wanna be able to go through there and speed clean and not have to worry about having to bust out a paintbrush every time that a short-term renter comes through. So something to think about. Now, if you're renting out your home and having it be fully furnished, meaning all of the furniture, the bedding and even outdoor furniture is there as well, you got to think about what you have available for tenants, because if it's low quality crap, it's going to break and you're going to be constantly replacing it. So think about getting really durable stuff. And I've left patio furniture and chairs and things like that outside, and a lot of times they get ruined because the tenants, again, they don't care about it. The tenants have done painting projects and things like that on my outdoor patio furniture. And obviously that doesn't make sense to me, but to them, they're just like, hey, it's here, I'm gonna use it. So you gotta think about that stuff. Consider the furniture and the indoor and outdoor items that you're potentially using. They could easily be ruined, again, because tenants don't care, and you need to keep that in mind. Now, think about what you're doing from a pest control standpoint, and depending where you live in the country, the pests are different across different states. So in my situation, I've had issues with roaches, rats, you name it, and it's super nice to have a service that is available on command or that does a monthly rotation so that you don't have to worry about that stuff, and nor do tenants. So that's something else that you wanna deal with. And again, all these issues are a lot easier to solve when the home is vacant, but once you have a tenant in there and they make it their home, all of these issues are multiplied out because you have to coordinate with the tenant, and you're dealing with someone who's living in your house, and you wanna have a good experience for them. So take care of these things on the front end, put a pest control company, put a landscaper in place, and then you don't have to worry about it. Now, these next two list items are from a pure cost and liability perspective. So the first one is the trash, water, sewer service for the property and the utilities. So if you think about who is paying for the water, if someone loves to take hour-long showers every day, is that really gonna run up the bill? And are you gonna be on the hook for that as the owner? Or is there a way to get that out of your name and put it in the tenant's name so you can have a greater peace of mind? Same thing on the utility side. The owner should really not be paying for utilities, in my opinion, unless there's a special situation. Potentially in Section 8, they do that as well, where they just kind of bundle it together. But generally, you want to get the phone service and internet in the tenant's name, along with the electrical, especially here in Arizona when it's very expensive to run air conditioning during the summer. So that should be the tenant's responsibility, and you want to make sure that that is worked out with them prior to having them move in. This next one, number 2, super important. It's regarding insurance, and you got to have insurance on both sides. Many leases require tenants to have renter's insurance before they move in, and that gives you peace of mind knowing that if something happens to the property, they're covered. And then you also want to have a landlord policy. So for my duplex, for example, I have 2 different landlord policies, one for each unit. So they're separate, and it gives me greater coverage just on the off chance that something happens, and you want to feel protected during that situation. Now, there's a few less obvious things that you can run into when you're tenant proofing your home, and it's things like, do you have light switches or fans that are not working properly? I had a situation where there was a bathroom faucet that was a little bit rusty just over the bathtub. Tenant went to turn on the shower, it snapped off. There's water gushing everywhere. He didn't really have a way to turn it off. Had to get pliers, and then we had to get a plumber out there. It cost me $300. But if I had just fixed it prior to that tenant moving in, I probably would have saved like $250. But again, you live and learn. So there's other things like doors. Do you have doors that don't catch? Or do you have doors like a closet door that's off the track? Little things like that, because again, they're just gonna get worse as there's additional wear and tear, or as soon as they move in, you're gonna get a maintenance request, and then you're gonna have to go contract that out. And it could have been a simple fix for you as the owner. It could have been free or a couple bucks if you went to the hardware store, or you're gonna have to contract it out and spend hundreds of dollars. So really, when you're getting your property ready, it has to be almost effectively perfect, as close to perfect as you can get it, short of replacing absolutely everything and making the home brand new, which is not really feasible. You just want to go around and make sure that you have covered absolutely everything. It's in working order. You've taken the steps to make sure that the tenant is going to have a good experience, and you're not going to have to be servicing a ton of different maintenance requests or spending a lot of money as soon as a tenant moves in to fix all this stuff that you forgot about. So it's really just wrapping your head around, hey, what could go wrong? What's wrong right now? What do I need to fix? Now, as we wrap up here, one of the final thoughts is related to having an emergency fund. And people talk about having a personal emergency fund in case there's a surprise medical bill or something like that. And then you want to have that same thing duplicated on the property management side as well. Maybe you have $5,000, and Brandon Turner, who's an author, one of the founders of Bigger Pockets, talks about the math behind how you calculate that emergency fund for your property management situation. But dependent on the age of the property and these various things that could go wrong and are likely to go wrong based on the things that I just detailed in this video, you also want to have a fund just in case any of these things break. You need to go contract them out. You need to go fix them yourself. You need to replace an appliance, all of these items, and you want to have the peace of mind, hey, if something does go wrong, I have a fund that's available to take care of that and not leave a tenant hanging with some issue. You don't have to put it on a credit card. You have a property management security fund that's available so that you can sleep well at night knowing that your property is taken care of. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hopefully you found it valuable. If you're able to give me a like and subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. Until the next real estate or DIY video, I'll see you later.